Welcome to another board game review. Today I'm going to be reviewing one of my favorite games called Commands and Colors Asians. Commands and Colors Asians is published by GMT Games, is playable ages 13 and up. It's a two-player card-driven war game and it's playable in about 60 minutes, sometimes a little bit more or less depending on the scenario. What you get inside the box. First of all, you get tiles to represent different types of terrain, like for example we have hills, seaside hexes, tents, stuff like that. Second of all, of course, you get a rule book, which does a really nice job at explaining the rules and is formatted in such a way that it's really easy to look up things while playing. So, thumbs up for that one. A scenario guide which comes with 15 different scenarios. Most of them are of the wars between Rome and Carthage in the base game. Second of all, we get two-player reference sheets, which are really great and probably contain all the information you're ever going to need while playing the game. Then we have 7 dice with custom symbols on them. For example, here we have a helmet, swords, and then we have different symbols that are relevant to the different types of units. So for example, the red square would be heavy units, blue triangle would be medium units, and the green circle would be light units. Then what else do we get inside the game? Of course we get a lot of cards because it is a card-driven game. And last but certainly not least, you get all the blocks. These are the blocks from Carthage, and these are the blocks from Rome. So that's a lot of blocks, around 400 I think, and you need to sticker every one of them. So it's going to take you about 3 hours before you can play your first game. But to me it was well worth it. I keep my blocks in Plano boxes. I normally don't do that with games, but with this game it makes a lot of difference. You know, instead of sorting all the blocks out, you can just grab the ones you need and get ready to play. So for the people who are not familiar with Commands and Colors series, I'm going to do a brief explanation of how the game is played. First of all, you draw cards. In the scenario it will tell you how many cards you draw, so it's your command point total. So let's say I have a command of 5, so I would get to draw 5 cards into my hand. Then the board is split up into 3 sections. So here you have 2 dotted lines. You have a right flank, a left flank, and a center. I could play this card, for example, outflank, which would allow me to move 2 units on the right flank and 2 units on the left flank. It also has a helmet symbol, which represents that I can split off one of my generals and move them separately if I want to. So let's get a little bit deeper into combat. So in Commands and Colors Asians, you really need to think like the Asian tactics that they used to use in the battles. So what you want to do is make big battle lines and keep everyone adjacent to each other. Why? Because some of the cards will allow you to make a line command, for example, and move all the blocks in an adjacent line. So if you have all your blocks in one big line, you can move them all at the same time. You also get leader cards, for example, leader +4, which would mean you could activate a leader and 4 adjacent units in linked hexes. Then, for example, here we have a order light units, which would allow you to order light units equal to your command. So if my command would be 5, I could activate 5 of those units. Now, let's take, for example, I set up the thingy right here. So these are Carthaginian blocks, these are the Roman ones. I have a leader over here, medium troops, heavy troops, medium cavalry, and light bow infantry against these light auxilia forces, poor guys. So, for example, I could play a move two troops. So what I could do is, for example, I could move my my heavy infantry up here, and I could move my bow infantry 2 spaces because they have a movement of 2. So 1, 2, and now I could attack. But the only one that is able to attack now is the bow infantry because they have a range of 3. So 1, 2, 3. If they wouldn't have moved, they would have rolled 2 dice, but they moved, so they only get to roll 1 die. And I need to score a green symbol, like is shown here. So I roll the red, I missed. So then, let's say, for example, the next turn I get a commander +3. So I could activate my commander and its attached unit plus 3 other units, so I could move all these units at the same time. So let's do that. I'm gonna move these ones 1, 1. These can move 3 because it's a cavalry unit, 1, 2, 3, which puts them adjacent. And I'm gonna leave my bow unit. First I'm gonna attack with my bow unit, and because they didn't move, they can roll 2 dice. So if they roll 2 dice, they roll 2 flags. And flags are retreats. And a unit, this one for example has a maximum movement of 2, would have to retreat 2 for every flag rolled, unless it has a leader in its group or adjacent to it, which would allow him to ignore 1 flag. Or if it has 2 units adjacent to him, he is supported and he can ignore another flag. So it's you can use both of them. So for example, if I would have a leader with my group and 2 adjacent ones, I would get to ignore 2 flags. So let's just ignore the flags for now. These medium cavalry troops are now going to attack those troops. So I look up on the chart, you can see they get to roll 3 dice. Some of the troops get to evade combat. These ones don't. So let's skip that right now. If they would evade, I get to roll the 3 dice, but I would only score on the green green circle. But these get to score now. They get to score on a green circle, swords, because they always score on swords in melee, and they would score on a helmet because they have a leader adjacent to them. So I roll the 3 dice and I see I get 2 helmets and a blue square. So I would deal damage to 2 of the units and would remove 2 blocks. But since the unit wasn't destroyed or didn't retreat, it can now battle back. So I look how many dice they can roll, and they can roll 2 dice but do not score on swords, so they only score on blue. So now they roll the 2, they didn't score a hit, so that's that. Let's say that they did retreat. My troop would be able to advance. Some of the troops are able, some are not. So they could advance, and depending, this unit could make an extra bonus attack and then maybe advance once more. So that's the basics of the game. Now, what do I like about this game that makes it that great? Actually, it is a very simple game at its core, and the mechanics are really easy. Everybody can grasp it after playing it once. But you have a lot of strategic decisions to make. Do I play this card and move that side, or do I use it to counter the attack that they're pushing? And there's also some small small things that you don't notice the first time you play. Like for example, in real combat, your flanks were the most easy to hit. In this game, it's exactly the same. Why? Because they can ignore less flags than the troops that are supported by other troops. So actually, it is a very small way to, and you don't need to think about it because the game does it by itself. But it's really a very good game. It has everything going for it. Some people do not like the wooden blocks and would prefer miniatures like Memoir 44. I'm completely okay with the blocks. Why? Because you can pick them up easy and put them everywhere. and it adds to the feeling of these big ranks moving across the board. So for people interested in really light war games, I can't recommend this one enough. This probably is my favorite one of all the Command and Color series. Granted, I did not play Battlelore. I did play Battle Cry, and I also played Memoir 44, but this one really feels like you're playing an Asian battle, and it really just it's very simple, and yet there's a lot of things to think about, especially when you add elephants into the mix, and there's a lot of terrain on the board, which in the base game most of the time isn't the case because most of the Asian battles were fought on big open ground. But if you get expansion 2, for example, Rome versus the Barbarians, there's a lot of terrain there. So you can move your troops into the forest, have them attack from out from the trees, stuff like that. So I hope you enjoyed this review and it made you decide if this is a game you would like to purchase. And see you next time. Take care.